Hi everyone, welcome to Watch It Played Table Talk. My name is Rodney Smith, and if you could, at the end of this episode, just stick around for a little bit because I have some important updates about including your video responses to this series. Now, I'm sitting here because this is where I had set up the game Tomorrow by Conquistador Games. It's for 4 to 6 players, so it won't really fit the format of a full playthrough on our series, but I do want to do an instructional video for it. Now, I was talking to my friend John Gallant about that, and he said, Rodney, you might get some flack for featuring this game. Now, at that time, I had read the rules, I set the game up as you see here, and I was working through a sample turn or two. But it wasn't until he said that I started to think about what he really meant. So just for a moment, come join me at the table. I want to show you the board. So you can see here we have a map of the world. There's lots of different colored pawns on it. The game comes with a die, several cards, and some tokens. So looking at this, you might think, it's kind of a Risk-styled game. What's the controversy here? Well, on the box cover in the corner over here, we have a little warning label. It's also found on the front cover of the manual, and it says, "This game simulates forced global depopulation via biological and nuclear horrors." So the idea behind this game is that in the not-too-distant future, the world is overpopulated. We are using up all of our limited resources. Humanity is on the imminent brink of extinction unless something drastic is done. And so the world leaders, in conjunction with scientists, realize the only way to save humanity is to radically and drastically depopulate the planet. No world leader wants to attack and destroy their own population, so your job is going to be to find ways to reduce the population of other people's countries. And you're all collectively doing this, and you need to do this, because if you do not reduce the population of the world enough by game's end, then everyone loses. But beyond that, if you can get the population down enough so that humanity, in some form, exists, the player who collects the most political capital will become the new leading superpower and the winner. So now, if we consider John's comment, we might be able to imagine, maybe you already are there, where you could see someone being offended, disturbed, mortified at the very idea of playing a game like this, which, at least in part, is intended for entertainment purposes. So the question that I'm trying to get to here is, when does a game stop being just a game? What would it take for a game's theme to challenge your moral compass, or even just take you far enough outside of your comfort zone that you just don't really want to play the game anymore? Now, I would like you to consider the role of artwork and language or any other factor that might affect your enjoyment or feelings towards a theme. But that said, I'm going to leave you some of my own thoughts, more focused on how the ideas presented in a game might challenge me. So, I find what Tomorrow is asking players to do reprehensible when taken at face value. But when I approach a game, generally I see myself as being fictionally transported into the situation that's presenting, even though there may be some elements of realism contained in the game itself. So here I am in this new fictional setting, hopeless setting, with a limited set of tools and a specific objective in mind. So when I think of it that way, it's no longer challenging my moral compass. For me, I now have a problem, a puzzle, that I'm trying to solve, and I'm trying to do it better than my opponents. Now, that said, just because I can distance myself from that, it doesn't mean that other people are going to be able to do that. Doesn't mean they should do that. I think the designer understood this. That's why we have these warning labels here. But also, he took out an entire page at the very start of the manual to talk about why this theme mattered to him and why he chose it. So then, the curious, interesting thing is that if a game like Tomorrow challenges my moral compass, then what am I doing with a game like Risk Legacy on my shelf? Because here's a game that is really literally about a world war. Everyone's engaged. There are countless millions of lives being lost over the course of this game if you take it at face value. And then I enjoy having a little bit of fun with the theme of village. Here's a game where you have a family, several generations of your family, working and dying, but players are trying to get their family members into the town record. The problem is, there's only limited spaces there, and you only get into that town record after you've passed away. So what happens is, generally, players are rushing to get their family members to do something notable, and then literally work them into the ground so that they pass away and they can get into the record first. Not exactly what you would wish for your own family members, hopefully. And then what about a game like Survive, Escape from Atlantis? Here you have an entire community of people living on an island that is now suffering from a volcanic eruption. Everyone has to escape. People are piling into boats, trying to leave. But as a player, you really only want to save your own people. And you're happy to see your neighbors' boats smashed to bits so they end up in the water, and then can be eaten alive by sea monsters and sharks. My children love doing this to me. I have failed as a father if I think about this from the moral level of the game. But I'm not trying to make light of moral issues in games. I'm just suggesting that when we think about games at face value, we do have to wonder, if we're going to get offended by one game, what prevents us from not being offended by another game where we just dismiss the theme as light fun. So if you have found a theme in a game that you feel has gone too far, I'd be very curious to find out how you define that point. And I want to let you know, in the next episode, I'm going to try to list a few games where the theme has, for me, personally, gone too far, and I'll share that with you. But right now, I'd like to turn this over to you. I'd love to get your comments on this topic. Again, discussing what is it in themes that challenge either your moral compass or just your comfort zone. Even if you've gone ahead and actually played the game, maybe there was something that just made you pause, feel a little bit uncomfortable, share that with us. I'd really like to hear what you have to say about this. Also, I really encourage the video responses that we get. They're fantastic. There has been a slight change. YouTube is going to be discontinuing video responses, but that's okay. What you'll need to do instead is, once you've created your video and uploaded it to YouTube, send me an email at watchitplayed@live.com and just direct me to the link of your video. I'll then be able to watch it. And when we come back in the next episode, what I'm going to do is take a sampling of the comments, respond to them further, sharing some of my own thoughts, and hopefully we can all sort of engage in this conversation. Then I'll also share with you some samples from those videos. I would ask, because I'm now getting more and more of these video responses, try to pick one aspect of the conversation and focus in on that. Keeping your videos to 4 minutes or less, that will help me out. If I get 10 responses, that could mean 40 minutes, which is great, but if I get 10 responses and they're 10 minutes each, it starts to get a little bit harder for me not just to process all of the information, but also to add it all together into a meaningful way. As always, I really appreciate your contributions into these conversations. I find them very helpful for myself. I always walk away with new ideas. I hope that our fellow gamers do as well. Until the next episode, thanks for watching.